From the bottom of my heart, I wouldn't give this advice to most people, but it does create huge personal power. Why I wouldn't give it to most? Because A, I believe it demands a certain character, and B, a strong mind to be able to get behind the strategy and apply it. Also, as you can notice, my voice is slightly gone. My message, however, isn't, so that's why we're here, and just excuse the little rasp today, but we'll survive. With that being said, if you are ready to challenge the limits of your potential and aren't satisfied with average results, you've come to the right place. By the end of this video, you'll have a new perspective on what it takes to level up and create a reality that reflects your true ambition. Make sure to stay until the end because the last one is my absolute favorite and I'd love your thoughts on it. So the first strategy is to instrumentalize your insecurity and anti-vision. I know exactly how to dissolve insecurities, and I have stripped myself of countless of them that were in the way or sabotaging me, but I have also intentionally decided not to eliminate all of them. I use them as driving force and take advantage of them. The most successful and highly intelligent people within my circle all have something in common. They are never fully satisfied. And I spend a lot of thought on this, and I first thought that this has something to do with like a low self-worth, but I was wrong because they are just driven by the pursuit itself. Because satisfaction in a traditional sense means stagnation in the way what they're doing, and their success is a paradox because they do more than most, yet they feel that they never fully arrive somewhere because there just is nowhere to arrive. It's not because they're unhappy, but because their minds are built for expansion. And true satisfaction therefore lies in never stopping. For example, many of the greatest artists, writers, creatives, they are not driven by their talents, but by raw insecurity. Leonardo da Vinci constantly feared not doing enough, and this made him obsessed with pursuing and mastering multiple disciplines. His last words, as reported, were, "I have offended God and mankind, for my work has not reached the quality it should have." And I noticed that this is similar for me and other people that are high performers or high achievers. And I don't think that this is a negative thing. Objectively, I thought it was, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta like eliminate this as well, you know? But then I realized, no, why would I? Because if I would lean into the belief that I know enough, it means intellectual death for me because I cannot grow with the same capacity and the same passion for it anymore. That's why I trust to invest in a person as soon as I hear something like, I don't know enough, or there's much more to learn, or, you know, like humbly just saying that they don't know everything, because that means that they have a big picture view of a lot. Not everything, but a lot. And they can see that there's still much more to learn and to grow into. And you still see from an outside perspective that they clearly do know what they're talking about. It's just that they have the big picture. And it means they keep going and they keep evolving. They don't stop and think, yeah, this is it, you know, because it's a continuous process. It does not stop, just as so many pursuits. And that's the most beautiful thing about it. So that's always a good sign if you hear it from a person. But it's also the other way around. If you meet or stumble upon a person that claims they know everything, you know, genuinely believes it, not only says it, but genuinely believes it, then you know they don't know shit. What I mean specifically by an anti-vision is that I always say I love to learn by contrast. So for example, if I get into a situation or encounter people that do not align with the vision that I hold for myself and my life and my future, then I obviously reject it in some way, but I also learn from it because you actively see what you don't want, so it's the contrast to what you do want. And that oftentimes fools the other side of the contrast, so what you do want, because you see how you could end up. So we learn from what repels us as much as from what attracts us. What I've presented to you now is something that most people use and apply subconsciously, but in my opinion, it's very important to be intentional and conscious about it, so you are not being ruled by fear. You are the one running the game, not the other way around. Fear or any what we would consider negative emotion should never be your main drive. But if you know it's there, there's no way to reject it, because when we have our shadow and we ignore it or we suppress it because we might be scared of it, or what happens if we like let it go, you know, then it only grows stronger and it shows up subconsciously through our behavior and through events in our lives that forces us to confront it. So if we know that it's there and it's a drive that we can utilize and alchemize, then it's something you want to do. So what I just told you about an anti-vision, it not only shows you what you don't want, but it points you into the direction of your real values, of your real authentic self. And that, on the other hand, is higher consciousness. So therefore, you can just alchemize it. In that way, you're not running from something blindly, but utilizing it to maintain your focus and your intensity. The most powerful people aren't those that eliminate or pretend that no insecurity is there, but the ones that learn to use it and navigate it like a weapon. I want you to understand that your mind demands pressure. If you deny it a challenge, it will create struggle where none exists, basically out of thin air. Choose your battles wisely and direct this pressure towards something that is real and that is valuable to you. So the key takeaway here is that when you own insecurity, it becomes precision, and seeing what you reject sharpens what you pursue. The next strategy is to be unreasonable to win faster and relentlessly amplify your delusion. What's one of the fastest way to move ahead? Set goals so big that they feel absurd to your logical mind. If a goal feels unrealistic, amplify it, triple it, make it so massive that your mind has no other choice but to evolve. I have learned to do this as a rule when I write down my goals, but I also do it in certain scenarios to remind me to think bigger. When I sense doubt radiating off a person, I don't reaffirm my goals. I deliberately triple them on the spot, because the moment you expand your vision way beyond what feels possible, your mind has no choice but to find ways to bend reality to make it fit. Every time I revisit an old journal, I find a past version of me that would be shocked at what I take for granted now. The challenge is not always ability, it's your scale of thinking. Two people can have the same skill set, the same amount of time, the same resources, but the one with the larger vision will always create more. Because even if you don't reach those large goals, I guarantee that if you pursue it, you'll at least reach the initial goal that you had before you amplified it. Why? Because it sets an anchor. When you have an already unrealistic goal, but you amplify it until you have an even more unrealistic goal, then this seems like nothing compared to this. So when you have this comparison, this does not seem unrealistic anymore. This is what you'll take for granted from now on because you are aiming for this. So this is normal. So that's why it anchors in your mind. If you do aim for this and you start feeling nervous, out of control, overwhelmed, excited, that's totally okay. Because if you don't, your goal is too small for you. Dare to push yourself, because you absolutely can. You absolutely can. I always say, if your goals don't scare you to your core and excite you at the same time, they are not worth pursuing and they are not in alignment with your purpose. It's always that way, because what I told you about insecurity before, I also believe insecurities are there for a reason. Okay, because similar people that are in similar fields, I noticed, have the same insecurities, so the same inexperience before they got there, which also propelled them to get there, right? But that's why this is aligns and in accordance with their purpose. They have to experience this so they can understand it by contrast when they are at a further level. Here's what I would do if I were to start today. I'd write down my goals, I'd triple them, and then I'd ask myself, who would I need to be to make this feel normal? And then from that day on, I would embody this person. Not act like this person, embody this person. And make drastic changes that will shock the hell out of your system. The next thing is use selective ignorance. Use it to focus your energy on what really matters. I don't need to acknowledge every reality. If something does not serve my world, I discard it immediately. Because what I choose to believe in dictates what shows up for me. So I curate it. And most people overlook that attention itself is an energetic currency. That's why I'm absolutely ruthless in what I choose to acknowledge and what I choose to let into my reality. The more discerning you get with it, the sharper your vision and the results attached to it will become. You are in control of the narrative that you are creating. When you acknowledge everything around you and every person and say yes to everything, it will completely scatter your energy. So the less you engage with anything outside of your goals, the more focused you become. Even if you have to get delusional and very discerning with it, okay? It does not matter. It doesn't matter what any person tells you. Just really focus on what you want. The rest doesn't matter. Even if it's still objectively in front of you, ignore it. I don't care. Literally ignore it. Stay inside your mind, inside the vision. How much can you hold it? The fourth strategy is to embrace paradoxes instead of picking sides. In my mind, I can hold contradictions and utilize them both. Most people can't because they fear anything that is ambivalent, and we're wired for it. It's a normal response because we tend to prefer clarity as a form of security. But if you are able to sit with that tension of contradicting facts, situations, new ideas are born, and you get into expansive thinking. It requires an advanced level of self-awareness and flexibility. Let me explain to you how I see it. In my mind, I always just see a spectrum. And I believe that we all embody everything. But in one moment, we might be here, and another we might be here. For example, with character traits, people are always so obsessed with picking out certain things that they are only this. We all know we can be soft in one moment, but we can be completely cold and untouchable in the next. We can think logically, we can think intuitively. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's just on a spectrum. Of course, we are born with genetics and things that are just within ourselves that we cannot really change. But there's so much exposure of environments, and it's just, we keep evolving. Why would we force ourselves to stay stuck? I don't feel the need to choose between sides because each side serves a different purpose at a different point of time. I don't cling to labels. I instrumentalize them to see things from a certain perspective or to get to a certain point. But why would I contort myself to fit a label? Labels serve me, not the other way around. Identity and ego are great tools for manifestation. It sets the energetic structure of what you attract because it reinforces your perception, your beliefs, and your thoughts. So I love my ego. She's there for me. Most spiritual teachings tell us to dissolve it. And I have gotten into meditative states where I have dissolved my ego. But why would we have egos as humans if we were not meant to experience them and life through it? So why would I deny myself that experience? I can sit here the entire day and meditate and not have an ego and be love and light. I'm sure I can, but I don't want to. I'm here to have a human experience and that's it. So why would I deny myself, for example, experiencing the material realm on the higher end? Why would I do that? I'm here to connect both because I can. Because even if ego is an illusion, it's a tool for focus, for direction, and embodiment. It's the narrator, and you can play around with it and refine it to align you with your highest vision. The moment you embrace the paradoxes and just play around with it, you literally open yourself up to limitless potential. You become limitless and capable of everything you can imagine, because when you understand that you are the director of your life and you are the co-creator, you can literally do and become anything you want from this moment on. But you really have to have this inner realization. It also comes with what I told you about labels, is the ability to adjust and integrate new information into your being effortlessly without being thrown off course by the change. I don't stay stuck or rigid in ways of thinking because I'm always willing to hear out different perspectives. That's why I keep synthesizing them and creating my own. You know what I consider a real growth mindset? The moment you realize that your truth is something you are continuously shaping and reshaping with every experience, with every new encounter that you have. You become comfortable with uncertainty, with being wrong, with learning about different things without fearing your identity that is attached to another thing. You are open and you are in an expansive state of mind. That's a real growth mindset. If you keep evolving and you understand you are never supposed to be or remain stuck. Never. You are supposed to keep moving, to keep evolving. So we have approached the last one, and sue me, but reject balance and embrace controlled imbalance. What is balance? Think of a scale. It's like this. It's static. It's fixed. And when something changes or something happens, it gets like this. But you keep trying to balance it out. And people are obsessed with trying to balance it out, right? Even the universe, the universal law is literally also off balance, okay? But what does that also imply? It implies that if you ever want to be here, you need to be there. You're not gonna be here if you have never been here. And the thing is, that if you're okay with this, it's great. It's a neutral way of living, and you will keep going like this. Maybe a bit like this. But if you are someone who has huge aspirations, you know it comes with this and it comes with this, right? We are human. We are not a rock, okay? That's why people who are very prone to experiencing extreme lows, they also experience very extreme highs. I refuse to believe that life is something that happens to me. You know, it happens for me, not to me, okay? So if I am ever here and here, you know, I know how to keep my mentality like this. So I can go through this and this, but still remain mentally here, okay? That is what literally the Kabbalion says a wise person would do. When I was in London, I was strolling around a bookstore, and a specific book caught my attention. And it's not specifically what I'm talking about now, but it correlates to it. Hear me out. So this book had a title that implied that psychosis might be a natural part of human existence and not something to be frowned upon. It spoke to me because this question has always been in the back of my mind and has occupied it for a very long time. Because I always saw the link between madness and genius. Seeing this book made me deep in the question. Not necessarily about psychosis, but about a certain state of what we would consider insanity. To us, it seems insane. What if these states aren't dysfunctional, but part of a deeper process, a way that the mind tries to expand, evolve, and process something that the normal consciousness cannot process, something that is too intense. See, the most obsessive innovators, thinkers, artists, entrepreneurs, they all seem a little mad to the normal person. The more they evolve in their craft, the more distant they become or seem to the normal person. So now you probably ask yourself, okay, what does this have to do with me? Do I have to throw myself into psychosis? No. But I am asking you to consider throwing yourself strategically, controlled, into obsession. When I was in this state of mind, I had such massive breakthroughs that when I later reflected upon it, I was like, that comes from me? Pushed the boundary so hard that I accessed a new state of mind that made me tune in to these great ideas. I deeply believe that we never create these ideas in the beginning. We are on a frequency that we receive them. And then we create them into the material realm. From where I stand now, I know this is a state that you cannot remain in. It drives you to the edge and to what we call insanity because it is not made to be held by your human vessel. The vibrations are way too high. It's the same if anyone experienced in meditation watches this. It's the same as when you communicate with higher energies. You cannot hold it for long. You literally feel a pressure on your body that you need to get out. Manly P. Hall in The Occult Anatomy of Man said, science knows there's a very narrow line between genius and insanity. For any dominating vice or virtue, man must pay with imbalance. Mastery is born from controlled extremes, not lukewarm moderation. People love to talk about discipline. Discipline is a crutch for the people who are uninspired. It's what people rely on when there is no inner fire, no such thing as obsession or immense dedication and devotion to what you're doing. Because let me tell you, obsession makes discipline irrelevant. When you are obsessed, you don't need to force anything. You don't need to schedule it because it already demands your time and energy. People who rely on discipline have to force themselves to act, but people who are obsessed, they could not stop, even if they tried. This also ties back to the very first point that I told you about. You know, the great people that were also driven by insecurity, right? And that's why they win. And the results speak for themselves. By any means, don't be in this state forever. That's not what I'm saying. But if you have like a free period that you can dedicate yourself to something, absolutely do it. Don't be scared, to be completely consumed by it. It's fine. You will see things that other people will never see. When I'm in the state, my focus is so laser sharp, miraculous things start to happen. People, opportunities, dreams, synchronicities that someone from an outside perspective could never fathom what I am experiencing. Everything is so connected, and you start to understand and really experience how important it is what your perception of things is, how your beliefs are, what your thoughts are, because you suddenly understand how everything is interconnected with each other, and you only see things with that. But the universe bends to those with undivided, focused energy. I don't think a person can experience what we would consider greatness if they don't get into this state, even if it's just for a small period of time, because it offers constant flows and such great focus. It's literally all universal laws are applied to it. Never be afraid of it. Trust yourself enough, you know? It's a gift that we can access. And in my experience, it was anything but suffering. I felt so great in the state of mind. And every time I get into it, I always hope that I have like a week or two where I can throw myself into it again. If you are someone who is driven, never let someone else talk you out of it. From an outside perspective, it looks insane. It literally looks insane, and you need to be careful not to give yourself a burnout and to be careful of your mental health. That's why I'm saying you must control it in a way. One of the many reasons that it might seem completely mad to a person from an outside perspective is the amount of time that you spend on your craft. I don't know any person with a successful business that has not had weeks where they spent 80 to up to 100 hours working. No one. And they won't tell you because it sounds absolutely repelling from the perspective that we listen to, you know, but if you are in it, it doesn't feel like it. Not at all, because you're so devoted to it. And when you're in this constant flow state, it feels like it's just minutes that have passed. Well, on the other hand, when you sit in something that is very boring to you, time seems to stretch because it's not the rigid thing that we take it for. It's actually very, very fluid. I do want to note, be careful of your mental health. It's for a reason that I said I would not give this advice to many people, right? Because it's not meant for most people. But it's a very extraordinary process with extraordinary results. And that's why I want to share it for the few people that actually are interested in it. Some people take years to figure this out all on their own. But once you see things from the right perspective, everything can change instantly and effortlessly. Time is not the issue here. The right shift can change everything. Which one of these hit the hardest for you? Let me know in the comments. I'm reading each one carefully. I love you. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.